But the most important thing I can say about load in, load out is read the fucking emails. I cannot stress that enough.
Seriously, like I said, there's people that are like, you actually read it? Oh my gosh, thank
Mhm.
you. And we like know all the things that you need to do. Oop, don't skim like I would. Pay attention. Like, do your best because we're all only human.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Behind the Booth. I'm Jade, and with me, as always, is my co star, producer, amazing, amazeballs person, Heather.
And on this channel, we talk about wild stories from Comic Con vendors. Jade owns a booth that she goes to comic conventions, and our next ones coming up are, well, we have MegaCon in Orlando, and then we're gonna have Fan Expo in Philadelphia in June.
And
Um,
Cleveland.
and Cleveland. Well, this might be actually after the Cleveland one. So,
Well, if you
I
saw us
mean,
at Cleveland, thank you for coming by the booth. We appreciate it.
yes. But all that to say, please come and talk to us because we would love to meet you. We would love to see, because we totally have like so many adoring fans now and we just want to meet you all. So please come say hi at the Tokyo Dog Designs booth. We would love to meet you. But anyway, on to this episode. We are going to be talking about loading in and loading out as vendors because it's kind of a very specific process. And
Mhm.
yeah, we're going to talk about it, but like you don't always have a whole lot of time, so it's really good to get it down. So Jade, start us off.
So, load in and load out is very critical. There are a lot of rules that come along with it, and every event does it differently, and every venue has different rules, and they do it differently.
Yeah.
So, my first piece of advice that when you get your load in, load out instructions, save that email is something important. Like, I don't know if there's a star or a check mark or whatever you got to click. And then I also put them in a folder within Gmail of load in and load out, and I have it tagged to the top of my bar, especially when I know I'm going to an event that weekend. Read every detail on that email. That is step like one and a half. Like, read everything because a lot of times the best information is going to be there. They might have maps of the layout of the floor plan, they might have your booth assignment, they might have driving directions on how to physically get there, what docks to use, what docks not to use, one-way streets. They have all of this critical information that you're going to need. Specifically, at some of these that are really big, like Fan Expo, especially Fan Expo Denver, they have you load in at certain times of day based off of your zone. If you show up at the
Mhm.
wrong time, you can't load in. That is hugely important to know. And there's a difference between loading in at the dock and what they call a carry in load in. So
Yeah.
loading in at the dock is more for people that have like a vehicle that they're going to drive up and empty stuff out of and then repark that vehicle elsewhere. One of the things I've heard from other vendors that are driving vendors, because all of our stuff is, basically in two suitcases, people that have these massive setups and they look amazing and they basically build a store
Mm.
and they have all their product all beautifully lined up, especially the Funko Pop people. They
Oh
have
yeah.
just an ass ton of stuff to bring in. So for those type of people, they have to unload very quickly because there is a queue of other cars that are waiting to get into that same spot.
Yeah.
But they will have to park that vehicle after they've loaded in. Sometimes it's paid parking, sometimes you have an hour before you have to move your vehicle from the parking station. So read those emails, they will tell you exactly how that works.
Well, and you got to think they send you those emails, they send you all that information. So they're not constantly getting calls, texts, emails while they're trying to actually organize everything that's going on. And
Mhm.
I've actually heard people tell you like, "Oh my gosh, you read the entire email?" Nobody actually reads the email, so I'm constantly fielding questions.
Yeah.
And it's like, "Yeah, I read the email." I mean,
Yeah,
you're
you read
so
the
great because
email.
I would be the person that just skims. And that's why we work so well together because I get us where we need to be. You know when it is.
But yeah, a lot of your important information will be there. And the thing to remember is that a lot of these buildings have just shit Wi-Fi, or even like cellular data has a hard time getting in there because the building's made out of stone or was made in the 1940s or 20s or what. I mean, you can't rely on that. Also, the people that are there organizing things, they're dealing with people in front of them. They don't
Yeah.
have time to check their email or their text messages. So if you don't know where you need to be, if you don't know who to ask for, if you don't know where to go, that's all a problem. So
That's
you
all
need to know
on
that information
you.
ahead of time. Yeah, that's on
Yeah.
you. So being the type of personality that I am with how I organize things, I read the email and I don't rely on bold print. Sometimes they will send me emails that say, make sure you do blah, or they have it highlighted. I read the whole thing and I actually memorize it. If sometimes your booth, that's super helpful for me because I can go and be like, hi, I'm Jade with Tokyo Dog Designs. My booth number is F1. And then that makes it easier for them to find you. Or they'll be like, okay, I see here you were at F1, but we had to move you because of something, something. That shit just happens. Roll with it. Just go with it. Because we don't have guaranteed spots. And it says that in all the emails. It says that when you apply, your spot isn't guaranteed. We will try and accommodate you. Yeah. And a lot of the fields will say, like, where would you like to be if you had your druthers or if you could pick anything? I always vote for bathrooms because when I'm by myself, I'd be able to go pee and come back really fast, if possible. And everyone is going to have to pee eventually. So being next to there, is great for traffic, at least in my opinion. Don't take my spot, by the way. You other people.
Right, we're telling you
for my spot.
Wait a minute. I mean, go in the corner where there's nothing. Don't be by the bathrooms. That's where we want to be.
But the other thing that's really helpful is the driving instructions, because when I get off the plane and I get my bags, I have to get an Uber that's going to take me, or Lyft or whatever, whoever wants to sponsor us is going to take me to. And they're going to take you to the front entrance. They probably won't take you to the docks because they don't know to take you there. So you need to look at this map and know exactly and be able to tell them what street, because obviously most of these drivers are from the area. Be like, I know that it's going to try and take me to the entrance when you type it into Lyft, it says we want to go there. But as I'm driving, and again, tip your drivers. I'll be like, hey, can you take me to, actually it'll be Downing Street and 32nd. There's going to be a loading area. That's where I have to actually go. Yeah. And they'll be like, okay, no problem. They'll figure it out with you. And it is an adventure because sometimes you don't even know what loading dock you are. Loading docks have numbers and names. Sometimes in the emails, that's not listed. They just say, go to the loading docks. And you're like, there's like 14 of them. Which one is ours? Because I don't think you guys booked out a 5-mile haul. Where the fuck am I going?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and most likely you'll be able to like see people going into the right one. Find somebody. They pretty much every convention I've gone to, the volunteers or the staff have matching shirts. It usually says staff or volunteer. Find somebody that looks official and be like, hey, what do I do? I've never had a problem. I mean, and I know these people are overworked. I've been a volunteer at conventions and you're just running around like crazy, but they're never not happy to be like, yeah, I can help you get where you need to go, because that's obviously going to make things go smoother. So don't be afraid to ask. Find somebody that looks professional, or not professional, but official.
Part of it. Official, yeah. So in this last event that I did, they had a cheerleading competition, a gymnastics competition, a dog show, and then the event as well.
Oh,
and
no.
I know. So the loading dock looked like just you had kicked over an ant pile. You know what I mean? And so what I went with, and this is going to sound maybe a little rude, so I'll try and make it nice. I looked for the nerds.
I was just going to say that. You look for nerds, people in costume.
So I looked for people that had something that said maybe Mandalorian on it or comic convention, because the volunteers were not out there. We couldn't see them. We just saw people loading in. And I was looking, and you can't always see like, oh, it's a Funko Pop thing, or it's this. Because when I walk in, I don't look like anything special. I look like a grungy Red Riding Hood, because my sweater that I wear is like a maroon color, and I always have the hood up because I want to be left alone. But I was looking at all these people, and I was looking for like, okay, what fandom? He has a Ninja Turtles t-shirt on. That one says something about a kennel club. Ninja Turtles it is. And so you have to kind of look around for that. And obviously the group of like 15 teenage girls was probably not going to this event when they all had matching jackets that said awesome, Team Awesome, or whatever the hell it was.
Team Awesome.
I mean, it's kind of obvious once you get around it, but if you've never been, you can't just rely on finding a loading dock and just whoever's over there, because everyone and literally their dog was there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So forget the advice that I gave you. Sometimes that'll work if you find somebody official, but sometimes it'll just be, like you said, like an anthill that's been kicked over.
And if you see somebody who looks really stressed and probably has a walkie-talkie or something walking around, they're probably the coordinator. But it
clipboard. They'll have a clipboard too.
Yeah, they'll have a clipboard. So you can just be like, excuse me, I'm looking for this. And if it's not your event, I actually went up to the kennel people because they were wearing, I think it was a Sailor Moon shirt. And I was
Oh,
like, hey, is this the convention for the Comic-Con? And they're just like, no, actually, it's Hall C. I was like, oh, okay, great, because the email didn't say Hall C.
yeah.
I was like, okay, great, Hall C, I can find that. And they'll point, and I was like, I'm like, I really like your shirt. She's like, oh, thank you. I wear this when I have to groom the dogs because it gets all dirty. And I was like, oh, you're a kennel people. Okay, got it. And it was Pause for a Clause. It was very cute.
Cute.
Very, very cute. Yeah, Pause for a Cause. So anyhow, that like, putting the nerd thing there and putting labels on people is not great because clearly I was wrong. But a lot of the people just tell you you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
If you know you're in the wrong place, that's somewhere to go. That's somewhere to start and figure it out. So when you're not doing the dock load in, like we don't because we're so small, we'll do what they call a hand carry in. And what that means is you can typically use the main entrance or one of the other side entrances or a dock or something, but they want to keep people away from the docks so that the people that are driving in don't have, because you have all these OSHA things and people can get run over by cars. Another important thing to remember is if you have children attending the event with you, 99.9% of the time, they are not allowed during load in or load out, anyone under 18. It's a
This is
liability
dangerous.
thing. It is dangerous. I've always been clipped by a forklift and I'm very aware of my surroundings and it just bad timing on both our parts. So I was fine. Everything's cool. But there's a lot of liability. So do not plan on being able to take your children, find a sitter, find whatever you need to do, because they will not let you on the floor. But hand carry means you can use the front entrance and there's often security or somebody up there and you just need to tell them because by that point you don't have your vendor information. You don't have your badge. You don't have your booth number a lot of times if they didn't include it in the email. So you just have to say like, hey, I'm a vendor. Like, okay, go ahead and check in with this person. They'll just point you there and you just roll your bags or carry them or whatever to that location. I've seen people with these things. I don't know what they're called over here, but they're like expanding red
Oh,
wheel wagon trolley things.
yeah. Yeah, they're just wagons, just expandable
Yeah, but they
wagons.
like
Yeah.
fold up. You'll see a
They're
lot of
like
people with those.
canvas. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like canvas. Yeah. And they're different colors, and people put like a bunch of those bins and things just stacked in there.
Yeah.
So if you see people rolling around with those are also considered hand carry.
Yeah.
Sometimes they won't let you bring in anything that can damage carpet because you're going through the front entrance. So they might send you to the back, but most of the time you can get into the front. And then what I do is if I know my booth number, I'll drop my stuff off at the booth that I'm supposed to be at. And when you arrive at your booth, a lot of times they will have the name of your booth on there.
Hmm.
So it'll say like Tokyo Dog Designs. If you go to a booth that says someone else's stuff, you might want to, take your stuff
Figure
with
that
you
out.
because you're either in the wrong place, you read the map wrong, or they moved you.
Yeah.
If you can, you want to get your badge immediately because no one is allowed on the floor without a badge
Yep.
on moving day.
And like ask around because it'll be in a different place all the time. So
Yeah.
just find people around you that have booths, be like, hey, where do I get my badge? Go
Mhm.
and do that real quick and then come back and then get everything all set up.
And I've been at events where they said, oh, okay, we don't have our badges yet. That sometimes does happen. But they'll be at the front the next day. You go there, they're not there, they're somewhere else. And so it's hard to be patient with that, especially since I have a chronic knee injury and I just spent, and I have a little calculator on my, watch here. It tells me how many things I've walked through and how many steps I've taken. And I've walked entire convention centers 2 times in a row trying to find where I need to go. And it can be frustrating, especially when you're in pain. Just know that they're doing their best. I am not the most patient with event center staff and security. We have our own feud going on with that. Some event staff and security are great and friendly. I've literally had the event center in Denver tell me, well, we're union, it's not our problem. I don't have any answers for you, and walk away and lock me out of the building. So, it depends on where you're at. Once you kind of get loaded in, you find your spot, you do your setup, you do your thing. On the last day, you'll get a couple of options. Sometimes they will send you an email saying, here's the loadout procedure. This is what you need to do. Don't ask us to leave early. They'll put in things of saying like, hey, don't block up the dock, get your stuff pre-packed, which is super important. Pre-pack, then bring the vehicle around, put your shit in there and drive away. That's really what they want you to do because there's hundreds of people trying to get out of there at the same time. So with the hand carry, we can kind of just leave whenever we leave with the rest of the crowd. It's not as much of an issue for us to get out of there. But for those of you that need to pack stuff up, put in a car. I mean, the queue that I've seen at a few of these, they say they'll be in a car for an hour waiting to pull up. It's crazy. So as much as we can do to help each other out, I know some people will basically get in one car, take it out, and then go get their neighbor's car and bring it around. Like they do what they can to be friends about it. But loadout is very difficult, especially if you have a vehicle. So that's why we tend to stick with like 2 suitcases if we can. But read the email and loadout. If you have questions, reply to the email or find the coordinator. Once you're in the building, you'll see the coordinators walking around. You'll be like, hey, Lexi, hey, Alex, I've got a question. And then they'll answer it for you right there. But the most important thing I can say about load in, load out is read the fucking emails. I cannot stress that enough.
Seriously, like I said, there's people that are like, you actually read it? Oh my gosh, thank you. And we like know all the things that you need to do. Oop, don't skim like I would. Pay attention. Like, do your best because we're all only human, but like,
and they're all different. It's
They
not
are all
like you can
different.
say A before E except after C and that's always going to work. Like they are literally all different. Even within the same company,
yeah.
they will be different.
Yeah. And like, give yourself grace, give the people working there grace as well. I mean, you will, every once in a while, you'll have one where it's poorly run and like, but that's also not, the administrator's fault. That's not the volunteer's fault. Like it just happens sometimes that things don't work very well. So be patient, do your homework, do your due diligence, make sure you remember the people's names, like the people that are running it. Because if you are like, hey, yeah, I'm so-and-so and I emailed you about this, and they might not like remember you, but they'll remember you the next time that you talk to them. So just like be kind about it, be smart about it. And yeah, just don't stress out. Don't stress everybody else out just because things aren't running exactly how they said in the email, because things will change.
Here's my last super secret when it comes to load in. Bring food for the staff. I always get cookies or bagels or something that's around the cost point of $25 or less. And when I check in, I hand it to them. They usually have their own green room where all the staff hang out. They will put it in there. It's one of the first ways I'm remembered. And I start by saying, thank you so much for doing all this work for us. Please enjoy some cookies. I'm Jade with Tokyo Dog Designs. Can I get checked in?
Yep.
So thank you so much. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So the way to put your name in their heads. And just like, hey, she was actually a great vendor. And that's another way to also get invited back to these things. So we'll talk about that in another episode.
Yeah, I was the cookie lady for a while, so I'm okay with that. That's not a bad nickname. But thank you so much to Nerdy Girl Podcast for sponsoring this episode. And we will see you next time.
Oh, and if you have any questions you would like answered, please email us. Don't be sorry.
I fucked that up. I'm sorry.
No, I forgot about it. I should have said it before you started the ending. No, okay.
I'm the cookie lady, and that's okay with me. That's where I left it.
There you go. And if you have any questions that you would like answered, anything you want to know about with this side of life that we have found ourselves on, talkbehindthebooth@gmail.com or find us at Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at either Behind the Booth or Talk Behind the Booth. We would love to talk to you. We would love to meet you at these events as well. So please just reach out to us and see what life has going on for us.
And a special thank you to Nerdy Girl Podcast for sponsoring this episode. We'll see you next time.